Hello and welcome back to Flint Hills Briar. I'm Gareth. Well, day number 2 on the Elk River Trail here down in southwest Kansas. Sorry, southeast Kansas. Once upon a time I lived in southwest Kansas. That was it doesn't look anything like this route. It doesn't look anything like this in southwest Kansas, that's for sure. Tonight I'm closer to Elk City in quotation marks, than I am Independence. Just one more night out on the trail. And tomorrow I'll hike out, drive home. I don't know when I'm going to get these videos posted, but tomorrow's a Saturday. So even though I spent a couple of days out here, I still have part of the weekend still once I get home. Spend with my wife. Been a nice little backpacking trip. Today was sunnier, warmer overall. I think my thermometer, I have a little wireless thermometer thing that I hang on my pack. I think it said it got up to 70. That may have been because the sun was shining on the thermometer though. But overall warmer than yesterday, sunnier. But it was still decent. Probably in the 60s. Maybe lower 60s right now. Basically no wind whatsoever down here. So should be quite a nice night. I'll have another campfire and enjoy some hopefully decent food. Basically couscous with the addition of some dehydrated vegetables, some cookies, maybe even a little wild turkey, bourbon, the 100 proof stuff. If I drink it, then I don't have to carry it, and not that such a small amount. Just a little plastic bag, flask bag thingy. Work great for backpacking. They're unbreakable. They don't leak. And they don't weigh much of anything. Wild turkey's not. I mean, I'll be honest. Probably the main reason I ever have bought wild turkey is, or at least initially, was because of Hunter Thompson. But it's really not that bad a whiskey. It's a bit cheaper than some stuff. If you get the 100 proof stuff, it's a bit stronger than a lot of them. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as smooth as some, but it's not bad. Oh yeah, in my Missouri Meerschaum Boone cob, I have some cobblestone hiking. Seemed pretty fitting, considering that's what I've done the last 2 days. As I was hiking along today, my thoughts were drawn to the fact that, as I'm walking along this woodland-like trail covered with dead fallen leaves, my thoughts went to how oftentimes in years past, this time of year, kind of like, I guess, later fall, oftentimes my thoughts have been directed toward Native American things And I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody. I may say Native American, may say Indian. Indian's just easier. Or First Nations people. I know some Native Americans refer to themselves as Indian, so and some of them don't like the term Native American. So I mean no disrespect in any word I may choose to use. I am a friend of the Native American First Nations folks. And for most of my life up until just a few years ago, I was always under the impression that I was part Native American myself. Um, my dad never could remember the name of the tribe that we supposedly had a great great grandmother from or whatever, but it had a very short name and it was from like the Illinois area. So I always thought I was, part some sort of kind of eastern to, well, not far eastern, but Midwestern woodlandish type Indian tribe. But anyway, turns out that wasn't the case. I'm basically 100% European. So it was kind of a disappointment in a way. But anyway, that being said, over the years, at least since I was maybe in like, junior high, middle school age, 7th, 8th grade, especially 8th grade, this time of year has always often had me, prompted me to think of Indians. And I don't know if it's because I kind of the falling leaves makes me think of the eastern woodlands and bug, the tribes that used to inhabit those areas, which are a lot of them are just totally gone nowadays, have been for a long time, or are vastly reduced in number. Some of them, which I know, are still around, but I don't know. There's a certain Eastern Indian mystique, I guess, that especially like Northeastern, that has always kind of struck me. And I've read books like The Light in the Forest, like Conrad Anker, I think. It's a like a kid's book, well, young adult sort of book or whatever. I always liked that book. It deals with the Lenape or Delaware tribe and some white folks back in colonial times. And I was walking along the trail, and a song or two from the Last of the Mohicans movie popped into my head. And I don't know if to what extent, like, Thanksgiving, which obviously occurs in late November, has Native American connections. You see the little decorations, which are pilgrims and Indians. And people talk of the tribes, which tribe or tribes. I can't remember if there were more than one, but I know there's one primary one that helped out the pilgrims when they were freshly arrived over here from England. And Squanto, who knew English and could talk with them. Can't think of the one chief's name escapes me. The chief of the friendly tribe that helped him out. But anyway, that's a November thing. I still have very fond memories of, I think it was around like 8th grade, And I think it was in November. Just one of those kind of silly, kid things. I mean, I know I was a little bit older, being in 8th grade and all, but I remember being inspired one night to set up a teepee of sorts in like the side yard, just some lumber pole things I tied together somehow and wrapped some blankets around it. I mean, it's a good thing it didn't storm or anything, so it would have gotten wet. But I rigged up a teepee of sorts and slept out in that one night, and I just kind of thought that was pretty cool. Always kind of remembered that. Makes me think I need to either read or listen to Last of the Mohicans. I have a paperback copy of it at home, but I have a lot of books at home I haven't gotten to yet. I was listening to part of yesterday and this morning for a little while. I was listening to Cheryl Strayed's Wild book, the one that they made a movie of a few years back with Reese Witherspoon in it. It's an interesting book, and I'll get back to it, but it's kind of got to where it just wasn't doing it for me. So I started listening to Peter Matheson's The Snow Leopard, which it's a great book. If I highly recommend it. It's a book I've loved for ever since I read it. I ran across part of it in a compilation of mountaineering stories, just selections from different mountaineering books, a lot of like the mountaineering classics. And one of the selections was like a chapter or so out of The Snow Leopard. And I remember the editor who put together this compilation book, he said something about how The Snow Leopard didn't really deal with climbing mountains, but it dealt with travel in the Himalayas, and the fact that the guy that wrote the book really had kind of, I don't know, kind of climbed his own mountains in his life or something like that in this experience on this trip he was on when he wrote the Snow Leopard book, or inspired him to write it, or it's a travelogue of his journeys. And so anyway, I read it, and I remember that always just kind of, I didn't really understand the context it was coming from all that well. I mean, I did well enough, I guess, but it always just kind of fascinated me. So a number of years later, I found the book itself, and I read that back in maybe 2013 or so. And I really loved it. And a few years ago, I stumbled across the fact that there was an audiobook version of it on Audible. And unfortunately, it's an abridged version. But the cool thing about it was Peter Matheson, the author, recorded it himself, I think only about a year before he died, which I believe he died in 2012, if I remember correctly. So in like 2011, he went to Boulder, Colorado, spent some time with friends, and he recorded like his own kind of abridgment of it. So even though it's not the full book, it's really neat that it's him reading his book, basically 40 something years after he wrote it, and also shortly before he died. But I've listened to the Audible version at least once, and I think I've repeated it again, I think. So me listening to it now may be the third time through. But I mean, it's just a wonderful book. I'll try to sum this up here quick, or wrap this up quickly, but he went with a research biologist. This would have been back in I believe, the early 70s. They wanted to go to an area in northern Nepal to research the Himalayan blue sheep, I believe. And Peter Matheson, this guy was friends with Peter Matheson and invited him to come along. And Peter Matheson decided to go, and he was hoping that he would be able to see a snow leopard because that's where they live and where the sheep are at. Snow leopards are around also. And Peter Matheson was a Zen Buddhist, and he talks a lot about some of that, Zen Buddhist spiritual principles and stuff like that. And I'm not a Buddhist. I have no desire to become one whatsoever. But I have noticed that with some of that stuff, I think that there are things that people of any faith can, or really no faith at all. There's certain little nuggets that you can take from some of these spiritualities that, it can be a decent thing to be mindful of or to incorporate in your life. But I don't know, that book's always fascinated me. I started listening to that today, and when I wasn't thinking of Indians. I don't know if I mentioned that back on the way back from our trip to Las Vegas, when we drove all the way to the coast in Santa Monica, we stopped at Taos, spent the night outside of Taos at a cool place that had it's called the Hotel Luna Mystica or something. They have a bunch of old travel trailers that they've turned into they're parked there, and there's plumbing and everything to them. We spent the night in these travel trailers from the 50s, 60s or something like that. Pretty cool. But we visited Taos Pueblo before we drove home later that day, and I'd always wanted to go there. Taos Pueblo is a Pueblo Indian dwelling complex. I don't know what you might call it. So this adobe kind of apartment building, sort of. And apparently it's been there. They know it's been there since at least about 1200 AD. And I think that their tradition says that it's about 1,000 years old. But it's been in constant occupation for 800 to 1,000 years. It was nice talking to some of the folks some of the Taos Pueblo people there, and bought some stuff from them. I really didn't, buy baked goods from them and stuff like that, and other, decorative things and a drum and stuff like that. It was easy to do because I feel like I'm supporting folks. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. The light's dimming and dimming. I should be getting my fire going here pretty soon. Thanks for joining me, especially if you've listened this long. Another good day on the trail. But I'm Gareth with Flint Hills Briar. There we go. I'm Gareth with Flint Hills Briar. I'll see you next time.